I was about 13. It was very abusive. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of coercion. Basically, they weren't going to investigate the allegation because they just felt like I was a woman scorned. But this was a 38-year-old man.
And you were 13?
Yes.
What had happened to them when they were children was horrific. And they wanted answers about why the police had done nothing to help.
And so began Operation Cardaman. It was meant to get to the truth about what was happening in Middlesbrough in the 1990s and why police who knew what was happening didn't act. The police failed to protect you?
Yes.
Failed to investigate the crimes that were committed against you?
Yes.
We're calling her Susie and have changed her voice to protect her identity.
They were investigating if mistakes were made.
We've invited her here to talk to this former detective turned whistleblower who worked on the IOPC investigation into failings by police to protect Susie.
The investigation was dead in the water, really, from when we started.
Chris Owen worked for the Independent Office for Police Conduct on a contract after retiring as a police detective. He joined Operation Cardaman, investigating Cleveland police after complaints from Susie and 3 other survivors who'd been sexually groomed and abused as children.
The failings were horrendous.
And as they meet for the first time, Chris Owen shares his belief that the IOPC's investigation into failings by police was itself a failed investigation.
When I joined it, it was apparent that really nothing had been done for the previous 3 years. No material was being checked, nothing was being looked at. They were not contacting the survivors, where they should update the survivors and make sure that they understand what's going on. That meant that when I joined it with the lead investigator, we picked up the biggest mess I've ever seen in my life.
Some aspects of the IOPC investigation did need to go on hold until the end of criminal proceedings, which saw 2 of Susie's abusers being jailed in 2017. But then the outcome of the police complaints process took another 4 years, with this report setting out the IOPC's findings and also the alarming details of multiple occasions when police failed to protect Susie from her abusers. You were threatened with a gun?
Yeah.
And often it was happening in plain sight.
A man who was known to us with quite a big gun. It wasn't like a small shotgun, it was quite a big gun. We thought he was going to shoot us. We ran. We hid in, I don't even know where, but we hid in some flats. Called the police come. Nobody investigated it, nobody found out whether there was a gun, nobody...
Not even recorded as a crime?
It wasn't even recorded as a crime. You know, if that guy then pulls up to me the next day, do you think I'm not going to jump in his car and do what he says?
On another occasion, police asked Susie if she was a prostitute, arresting her for being drunk when she'd just escaped a man who'd been plying her with alcohol. And aged 13, when she reported sexual abuse by a taxi driver in his 30s, police records show a detective thought it was consensual and described her allegations as the disclosure of a woman scorned. At around the same time, when she was 13 or 14, Susie says there was another man driving her around and taking her for sex, and that he was a serving police officer with a neighbouring force. The IOPC told her its investigation didn't find evidence that Cleveland police knew but didn't act. However, we now know that police officer was later jailed for sex offences. Overall, the IOPC concluded there were times when Cleveland police failed Susie. In the case of one Cleveland detective, the failings were found to be so serious they'd have faced the sack, except they'd already retired. The IOPC has told us the law at the time prevented disciplinary proceedings after the officer's retirement, and that they have no legal power to prevent police retiring.
There was no redress, there was no saying how to put things right, there was nothing to say that this won't happen again.
Disciplinary action?
Nothing.
Cops being sacked?
Nothing.
Taken to a misconduct hearing?
No.
None at all?
Nothing. There was no kind of accountability. There is no one person, there's no entity that is responsible for the failings of upheld police complaints.
And she's not alone in those frustrations.
I'd apologise to you that we didn't get anywhere, but I tried my utter best. My personal view is they did fail. They gave you a lot of waffle that leads to nowhere. Lessons are learned, which is a get-out that you hear all the time of.
It is. Nobody ever tells you what those lessons were.
According to the IOPC, their investigation was thorough, and in a statement they say,
"Our thoughts are with all survivors of abuse. It's vital their voices are heard. As we've experienced in other investigations, the passage of time posed significant challenges, including a lack of recorded information."
They added,
"We have been saying for some time that the arrangements for holding police to account need fundamental reform and have called for a wider review."
While Cleveland police have told us they wholeheartedly apologise to Susie, that the language and behaviour of the 90s don't reflect the force today, and their response to child sexual exploitation and abuse has drastically improved. However, earlier this year, Cleveland police was found to be inadequate at investigating child abuse. And so for Susie, 3 decades after she was failed as a child, and with the National Grooming Gang's inquiry ahead, albeit delayed, there remain urgent questions.
When you think about safeguarding, you think about the role of the police. If they aren't doing what they are there to do, then who is going to do that? And then if you look at then who investigates the police, if they aren't fit for purpose, where do we go? Where do we go if they're not fit for purpose?